Hello again. In this two-part episode, we venture into the mighty Loers Range to tackle Muir Cornach and Muir Curulae, continue our crash course in Gaelic with the vocabulary of the language, and explore the history of Killin and Finlarrig Castle. The Loers Range, or 7 Munros beside Loch Tay that cover a staggering 47 square miles and rise to a towering 1,214 metres, form the roof of the Southern Highlands, and the complete ridge presents a strenuous but extremely rewarding day out and a serious mountaineering challenge in winter. Having twice climbed Loers, Glass and Anshtuk and the southeastern outlier Muir Nantarmican, we've only 4 Munros left to summit. The eastward end of the main ridge holds Muir Garov and Muir Grey, which we'll tackle in part 2, while the northward spur of the massif comprises Muir Cornach and Muir Curulae, which we'll climb today. Handily, this route begins at over 500 metres, from where a horseshoe route takes us over the 2 peaks, taking in great views southeast to the Loers Ridge. Hello again, here we are at the Loch an Ladig, situated between the Ben Loers Massif on this side and the Tarmican Range on this side. Now you can just about see our summit up there, Muir Cornach. As you can see, it's decent weather and spring has kind of sprung. A little bit of snow left, but we're just going to boost up here basically and take a leisurely walk up to the summit. And there's the cairn you need to look out for if you're driving up here. Here we are at the top of that rise, just above the cairn by the road. As you can see, the sprawling mass Muir Cornach is up here. The rather ill-defined lump Muir Curulae. You can see there's still fairly substantial remnants of snow, but certainly not enough by the looks of it to merit crampons. Well, as you can see now, we've made our way across the bog to the start of Muir Cornach. Now I'm very pleased to report that the bog is just at the sweet spot where it's kind of beginning to thaw but still hard enough to kind of support your weight when you're walking across it, so a bonus. Because if this was in full bog in the summertime, imagine the kind of fun you'd be having. Just going to take a minute to admire the wonderful Muir Nantarmican there. I certainly don't remember it being quite that rocky when I did it. However, that was about 11-12 years ago, and it was thick cloud, so it probably makes sense I wouldn't recognise much. However, you can see there, it's fairly substantial. We've finally made it to the first snowfield here, and the first rock step. Yeah, this isn't exactly the north face of the Eiger, but we should hopefully get some rather unusual views onto the back of the Loers Range, which of course we'll be tackling in part 2, the final 2 peaks of that. You can actually see behind me here Stukenlochen and Mjølvui, and they are the ones we'll be doing after the Loers Range is completed. Well, as you can see here, mini queue up there. I'm keeping a respectful distance as ever. Name of the game is basically following this, or what remains of this fence. If you're in low visibility, just to keep an eye out for it.
Well, here we're just approaching the second snowfield. Looks dicey, yeah?
The ridge up to the summit there, you can see basically following the fence again. That down there is our return route, and back up to that little lock in there, and then back over down to the cairn. I would imagine it'll be about as much fun as it looks.
Okay, so right now we're up on the ridge and the wind is substantial, looking at 40 miles an hour at least. I'll try and keep my balance here.
The sun seems to be
Coming out again, so fingers crossed the rest of the day we'll get rid of these dark clouds.
However, for now, I think I'm going to get my head down and I'll see you at the summit. Well, here is the rather nondescript summit of Mjoll Kornek. Ben Glass, Ben Lors, and Stuck. There we are, number 39.
Okay. Made it.
Well, just descending from the summit of Mjoll Kornek there. Ben Lors there behind me, and there's quite a few people at the top. You'll notice out of that horrendous wind, just pushing over 40 miles an hour, maybe 45. Basically enough to blow you off your feet and knock you off your stance kind of thing. So, for the uninitiated, it can be pretty intimidating, especially if you're on steep ground. However, we're going to try and stay on this side of the ridge, try and get a bit of shelter for the rest of the walk down to Mjoll Curaleia, down there. The lie of the land of Mjoll Kornek would suggest, you'd think, wouldn't you, that you'd be going this way. However, that is not the case. We're going down this eastern ridge, as you can see, running down this. Now, I have checked, and I can assure you it is a Munro, despite appearances. It's almost Cairngorm-like in its shape there. The rounded top, although of course not quite as high, not quite as pronounced as those on the Cairngorm Plateau, such as Bray Riach. Well, as you can see, there's almost a cornice forming here. The wind is pushing me towards Mjoll Curaleia here, and I should point out that this is a fairly steep drop here, and were the wind to be blowing in that direction, I certainly wouldn't be standing here. Bit of a confession to make. I have pretty bad vertigo, and it tends to be in conjunction with high wind. So that's when this psychological barrier comes down, and I just want to lie on my stomach and slither off the hill to safety as soon as possible, because I'm a big wuss. However, I'm getting there, and as this is a journey, a learning process, doing the Munros, hopefully by the time we get to Skye in Series 5, I'll be capable of handling the wind on a knife-edge ridge. However, we will see. Time will tell.
Well, here we are on the Bialik, and as you can see, path up here is pretty obvious. And yeah, I mean, in general, this walk has felt more like I'm kind of walking in the Lake District, obviously. starting halfway up. Takes a lot of the initial slog out of it. And yeah, it's just kind of very gentle rolling hills with a little bit of crags on it. So yeah, kind of Lake District vibe. Two of the more gentle Munros, shall we say.
Following last month's guide to Gaelic pronunciation, this time we look at the meanings behind the words that we see on the map, or the vocabulary of the language. The given names of Scottish hills and mountains are predominantly Gaelic, but there are also Norse, Cumbric, and Scots influences. Many a Munro enthusiast will have read guidebook translations and noticed the common theme of the, where a certain characteristic of the mountain is used as its identifier. For example, Hill of the Bay, which is how Ben Vorlich would be said in English. Similarly, adding each, ach, or anach to an adjective means this type of place. For example, Cúnach, mossy place, or Vúnach, yellow place. Let's start with some of the most common words that you'll encounter with regards to the Munros. Ben, ven, or vein, a mountain or large hill. Niall, rounded hill. Bealach, a pass or col between mountains. Glen, a steep-sided valley. Cur, a corrie or high-hanging valley. Alt, stream or burn. Lochen, a small lake. Carn, cairn, Curn, the ubiquitous piles of stones denoting the mountain's summit. Urnach, a high ridge. Bitian, Spitian, an especially conical peak. Bodach, old man. Monar, a high upland. Buchel, a shepherd. Caelach, old woman. Cashtal, castle. Clach, stone or rock. Clash, gorge or ravine. Creachan, stony hill. A craig, a crag. Cruach, stack. Drochid, bridge. Droom, ridge. Dun, a fort, for example Dunvegan. Aig, a notch, for example Skurnan Aig on Skye. Free, a heath, moor or hunting forest. Larrig, a low pass through mountains. Lead, a broad ridge. Mam, or Cuch, a breast. Mal, a bald head, easy. Sail, a heel, for example Sail Dhu, the black heel. Skur, or score, a jagged peak, and appropriately this is most common on Skye. Sron, or sroin, a nose, usually at the end of a ridge. Stove, a small top, point or peak. A strath, a wide, fertile valley, for example Strathfillan. Stuck, a sharp pinnacle. In terms of colours, a hill may be ban or fionn, white or pale. Break, speckled or spotted. Vui, yellow. Gerach, or rui, red. Doof, black. Glash, greenish grey. Gorum, bluey grey. Lea, again grey-blue. Oder, brown. Or, gold. Rivach, brindle, or grey-brown. Or un, bright green. A mountain may be big, small. Cuven, narrow. Fata, long. Gur, short. Lean, broad. Vean, middle. More or vor, big. In terms of weather, you may encounter hor, cold. Geir, wind. Schnach, snow. Or grunen, that elusive sunny drying place. The terrain underfoot may be corrach, steep, Éirich, notched, Garav, rough, or Lairg, slabbed. As we all know, there's no shortage of ooze or water on the Munros. You may have to cross a avon, a river, a doran, a small stream, an age or stale, a waterfall, Asian, a small waterfall, island, an island, Uren, a spring, or Lugh, a bay. Mountain features may be named after Ba, or cattle, a Currach, a sheep, Coo, not what you think, but a dog, a Damv, a stag, an Eich, a horse, an Erb, a roe deer, a Gavar, a goat, a Lui, a calf, or a Tarv, a bull, an Un, a bird, Kavar, a hawk, Fitich, a raven, Euler, an eagle. A Creve is a tree, a Kuil is a wood, Bad, a copse or small thicket, Bear, birch, a Curin, a rowan, Herna, alder, Hreich, heather, Ewer, a yew, or Reinach, bracken. Don't worry, you can put down your notepad now. Next time we'll look at the etymology, or the roots and history of the Gaelic sounds and terms that we've looked at over the last 2 episodes.
Well, we're almost at the summit here. We're kind of on the summit slopes, though to be honest it's more kind of summit bray. Very gentle, very easy ascent there from the Bealach. Here on the last pull up to the summit, the wind is finally behind us properly, so I guess it's better late than never, right? You can see, whew, look at that crazy cornice over there. Well, I've got to try and make it a bit exciting, you know. Looking back over there, Mial Cartman. Just 10 more meters. I can do it. I'm telling you, I can do it. No, don't worry, I can do it. I'll do it. Didn't you need help? Here we are. I don't know if there's a cairn up here. We're going to find out very shortly. Well, here we are, and just as well as a cairn. It's pretty difficult to tell what the highest point of this is. This is my 40th Munro. Huzzah! Over here we can see the Glen Lyon Horseshoe. And there in the centre of the image is Carn Gorum, its first peak. Looking up there to the Monad Riath, far in the distance over Rannoch Moor. Up to the hills of Loch Ericht. In the foreground there, Maelvui. In the background, the Central Highland peaks. There's Lochen Dam. And above it, Strucken Lochen. Here's our old nemesis from last time, Mial Hierde, and you can also see the peaks of Mamlorn there, Craigmore and Ben Hisgarnick slightly to its right, Ben Callum there, Mael Glass and Scairhul, Colossus Ben Moor, and Stovinian. Here the Tarmacan Ridge and Mial Nantarmacan in the foreground, the hills of the Trossachs there. Looking back at Mial Cornach and its winding S ridge back to the summit. And there's the main Lors Ridge there with Ben Glass and Lors in Cloud and Stuck there below the clouds. Mial Garav
Well, here we are on the descent now, and you can see there the path back, potentially a bit of a green inferno back to the Bialik, but we'll see. You know what, that walk back wasn't too bad. A little bit damp in places. Boggers definitely thawed on these sides of the hills. But yeah, here we are back at the path at the head of Loch Nalarig. Now I may have cheated somewhat by using motorised transport to the start point, but I'm actually going to walk back to Killin and get some nice scenery on the hydro track. We're going to take and then follow the pipe down and head back via Finlarig Castle. Behind me there you can see the Black Gates of Mordor, or rather the dam at the head of Loch Nalarig. Well, as you can see here, the water in the reservoir is substantially lower than average for some reason, and it's certainly not for want of precipitation in this area. Really at a loss to explain that. Seems a lot of people flush their lavatories at the same time. No idea. Black gates there, looming ever closer, precious. Damn. Perhaps not the most attractive structure in the world. Now further on our return route, gonna pick up one of the pipes that comes out the dam and goes down to Finlarig Power Station. That's actually our direct line of descent beside the pipes, so hopefully there's some kind of path. The Lors Dam holds in a reservoir to the hydroelectric power station beside Loch Tay at Finlarig, which we'll visit later in the route. Here we are on the hydro track. You can see the other side of the dam there. Miel Nantarmaken ascent route there. Miel Cornich summit right up there atop that rather complex, knobbly southwest ridge, which I'm glad I didn't take as an ascent route. By the looks of it, it looks like false summit-orama. Over there, Ben Glass, which is, you know, a pretty impressive mountain in its own right.
However, most people don't really notice that they're on it, on their way to Ben Lors, of course. And purists will be glad to know there's no longer a Ben Lors Visitor Centre. It got demolished quite a few years ago now, actually. So there's still a massive car park that will be full over weekend. Certainly was full this morning.
You can see down to Loch Tay there on the south shore. Absolutely beautiful. The views back along the hydro track of the Tarmacan Ridge makes it a rewarding walk in itself, and it's not long before the track brings you to the pumping station, where the pipe bursts from the hillside for its final rush down the hill to the power station. And this is our way down. Now, in case you're wondering, well, where's the pipe coming from? You remember the pipe that was down at the bottom on this side of the dam? Basically, it's been drilled through the hillside from there all the way over to here. It then comes out of the hillside and goes down over the surface, as you can see. Basically that's going to take us all the way straight back down to the road very quickly. As you can see, we're still at quite a height here, about 400 metres. Killin down there, and Benmore and Stovinian over there. Ben Vorlich there, just peeking over the top. And we are now, as you can see, by the banks of the Bonnie Loch Tay. And this is called Pier Road. No camping. Absolutely beautiful, isn't it? You have to go far north to get incredible vistas of the Scottish Highlands. Killin and the north shore of Loch Tay is a historic area with evidence of thousands of years of human habitation around every corner. Throughout the area there are also hundreds, if not thousands, of examples of cup-marked rocks, standing stones and stone circles, such as that by Kinnell Farm near Killin. These probably date from at least the late Neolithic to the Middle Bronze Age. Kinnell indeed. Loch Tay is known for its unique collection of 18 part-submerged loch dwellings, known as crannogs, bizarre Iron Age lodgings that are found only here and at nearby Loch Earn. For those with a high tolerance for tourists, the Scottish Crannog Centre at the east end of Loch Tay near Kenmore is built around a reconstructed crannog and explores many aspects of Iron Age life. As we know from the Ben Callum episode, many of the tales about the Irish-born St. Fillan, such as his miraculous cures and luminous right arm, are mythology, i.e. nonsense, but his healing stones rest in the parish church of Killin and Ardenneg in Killin and are available on prescription. As in the case of St. Fillan, there also appears to have been more than one Scottish-Irish hero named Fingal, but both are probably mythical in this instance. Fingal's stone in Killin is said to mark the burial place of Fingal after his death in battle nearby. Although clans, in inverted commas, had existed since pre-Christian times, the late medieval period saw the development of the clan system. Many important clans occupied the lands of Breadalbane, such as the MacDermids, MacGregors, MacLarens, MacNabs, MacNaughton, Menzies, Robertsons and Stuarts. Inter-clan feuds were rife, with many of them seeming to involve the MacGregors. Indeed, a certain Rob Roy was seldom far from the action. However, momentously, many of the clans were displaced by the arrival of the Campbells of Glenorchy, later the Earls of Breadalbane, who counted among the number one Black Duncan, with whom we have previous. The Campbell dominance is reflected in the history of the Breadalbane castles. The name Finlarrig derives from the Gaelic meaning white or holy pass. Finlarrig Castle was built in 1609 by Black Duncan Campbell, yep, him again, also known presumably to those he hadn't shamelessly done over as Duncan of the Castles. As we know from our recent visit to Castle Dochart, the reprehensible Duncan was a royal favourite and had prospered during the reign of James VI, the first of England. Finlarrig Castle was built upon a peninsula between the River Lochie and Loch Tay, situated off the old Pier Road between Killin and Mournish. Originally surrounded by a moat, it stands on a prominence to the east of a larger mound called Dunlochy, the site of a prehistoric fort. The only entrance to the castle now intact is the south gate, above which there is a stone bearing the royal arms and the letters IR AR 1609. These are the initials of the aforementioned King James VI and his queen, Anne of Denmark, with whom Duncan and his father Sir Duncan Campbell, the first baronet, were on friendly terms. Nothing like a bit of royal name-dropping to impress the visitors. Unlike the seldom used and largely ornamental Castle Dochart, Finlarrig saw plenty of bloodshed. Next to the castle is a pit with a beheading block, complete with cavity for the reception of the head, where persons of gentle birth, i.e. the rich people, were executed, and I'm sure they appreciated such distinction. Common folk, usually random innocent MacDonalds or McGregors, whose clans Duncan utterly despised, were hanged on an oak tree. Gruesome stories were told of the beheadings and hangings at Finlarrig, and while local historians will hold these to be fiction, given what we know of Duncan, I'm more inclined to give them the benefit of the doubt. For example, seemingly enamoured of needless theatrics and apparently eager to establish himself as a fully cliched cartoon villain, when Duncan sat in judgment of one of the hated McGregors or MacDonalds, he would go so far as to put on a black cowl to sentence him to be hanged, and take it off again, hence his full nickname, Black Duncan of the Cowl. Though I'm going to go out on a limb here and suggest that the McGregors and MacDonalds, as well as the other poor people he terrorised, would have some literally more colourful nicknames for him of their own. Finlarrig Castle briefly entered the national spotlight in 1651, when it was selected as the location for a meeting of the Scottish Parliament. However, with Cromwell's forces overrunning Scotland and the majority of parliamentarians captured, this meeting comprised only 4 people, whose commendably optimistic agenda for discussion was how best to resist the English forces. In 1713, the castle saw a visit by a certain Bob Roy MacGregor, and continued to be used as a functional residence until the late 18th century.
This is where our journey ends, by the shores of Loch Tay. Thanks again for watching. Do like, comment and share if you've enjoyed the show, and we will be back with part 2 very shortly for male Gareth and male Greg. Bye for now.
Till then, enjoy your adventures.